Right. Comfortable in your chair then, rubbing your hands together. And then tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. On the side. Upper part of your chest. Belly. Okay. So sit back. Relax back into your chair. With the weight of your body to whichever parts of the chair you're in contact with it. That'll be variable, of course. You'll get more of the weight probably in your sort of the middle or upper part of your back and some other parts and so on. And the points that are in contact with the chair are the first ones that you want to try and get that feeling of softening, releasing from. And once they start to let go of some of the tightness and the stiffness, then it's almost like that you've taken the plug out of a bath, and the rest of the weight and a lot of this tightness and stiffness in your body begins its sort of flowing downwards process. And then come into the upright position and weight a little bit forwards. The same thing really, just which parts of your body are in contact either with the chair or the ground. So that's going to be hips, buttocks, lower back, and then the feet, maybe slightly forwards in your feet. Those are the areas, first of all, to use that memory of the softening to try and stimulate the same process there. You might want to, for instance, just wriggle your toes about a little bit, move about in the chair a little bit till you find a good position and so on. One way or another, opening up those areas to provide a route, a conduit through the body. Settling into your hips and your feet and your legs, and feeling that slightly stronger feeling in them, and from there up through the middle of your back. Head being held up, supported on this column-like feeling that goes up through your body. And so now your ribs, your shoulders can all develop this feeling of hanging slightly from that central column. Or maybe not a central column, maybe broader than that in the sense that it's more like an inner framework for the whole of the body. Really, whichever images, whichever ideas help you to come to this feeling of being able to sit upright without having to strain, without any undue pressure anywhere in your body, in a way that allows things like your breath to freely circulate. blood to flow through your veins. And then very slowly turning your head. So remember, your posture should facilitate your movement, should allow your movement to come more freely. So it's one of the first things we will look at when we feel that a movement is blocked. It's by no means the only factor, but there's usually some kind of issue with posture involved in some kind of blockage. Remember, as the cooler weather starts to take hold, there will just be less movement and a sense of less energy around too, you know, sort of darker nights and darker mornings and so on and so forth, will mean that the sort of activity level is settling a little bit. This is quite natural. The shoulders. And going forwards. Hands down to your sides, winding around. And then rotating. Back the other way. Rest your hands. And this all important transfer of your weight and just noticing the quality of the movement and looking for that unobstructed movement. So as you move from your hips into your legs, is there some kind of resistance to that? Likewise, as you move back. In some cases, there might be a kind of good physical reason. It might be your feet are out of line, or it might be, you know, if you've got a bit of arthritis in the knee or something like that, you're protecting that. Other times it might just be that slight fear that can build up in allowing something to happen, and almost a sort of sense of disbelief that it's going to work, that you might fall or something like that. Most of those are quite difficult to overcome. And the basic pattern, the basic method that we use is to simply allow ourselves to sit back from those sort of thoughts. And in the case of the knee with arthritis, for instance, allowing the knee to soften a little bit will create a space for the movement to flow through. And eventually there's less pain when you do that. It might take a little while for the muscles to build up. That sense of bringing your attention back to the movement kind of turns you away from that slight kind of anxiety, if you see what I mean. You're much more aware of what is going on and what is working. Turn in a little. And then in the other direction. And around. And in the other direction. Now, come back to the center and push one knee up so the heel comes off the ground. Let me show you from the side what that does. Here, there. That's a good way of just getting a bit of feeling in to your legs and your feet in particular. It also emphasizes this focusing of your weight in the ball of the foot, and then push up and step forward, planting the foot and back. Plant the foot down, you just allow yourself to push in a little bit and then back. And then on the other side, first of all, just pushing up and down. And you can feel the whole leg is involved in this. And then the step. Good, okay. Right. Hands down to your sides. And your hands palm forwards, and then bird folds its way. Now change to fisherman castanet. With this feeling that as you settle into your feet, feel your back lengthening, that you're able just to feel out a little bit further with your fingertips. And then rolling the ball. This time I'm going to change. The pigeon spreads its wings. Remember, as though you're squeezing on a ball as you go forwards, or some kind of image of resistance, drawing an elastic band out as you go back, moving through water. These are all images that help to just gently cultivate that stronger, more connected feeling within the body. Or indeed, given it's the pigeon, you can imagine waving feathers through the air. And then pushing a wave. One more time. And then punch with both fists. And then turning your hands out. Turning your hands down, polishing the table. Remember to keep a focus on what's happening in your hips and your lower back, seeing them going the opposite way to your arms and your shoulders. It's obviously very subtle in the chair, especially the feeling of your hips dropping back, but it's there nevertheless if you can find it. Coming in this time, turning your hands palm up and push up where you're lifting the ball and press it down. After this one, change into the wild goose. And part in the clouds. Allowing your arms to continue around the circle. Nice steady pace. You sit back, push up from your hips, then pull your arms up. One more time. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. You're going to push up. Elbow lead in first of all. And then a draw down. Letting your arm have time to come to its full length right at the bottom. The fingers unfold and point down. And only then do you consider moving the other arm. This dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Do one more on each side. Now both hands together. And then just adding in a little turn. And when the turn is predominantly in your hips and your waist, maybe a little bit up, further up your body, but mostly the higher up your body, the more you're following what's happening below rather than trying to actively create anything. One foot extended, scooping the sea and looking at the sky. Now grasping the tiger's ears. Switch sides. And then changing, grasping the tiger's ears. One more time. Okay. Come back to the upright position. Now, hitting the ball in front of your shoulder. So going across, and you may even find that as you do this, it's advantageous to do that little push down through your foot. Be careful it doesn't send you right over. Very much sinking down in this leg. But this might just give you that bit of an extra push going through, you move across, and then as you settle into this leg, you push. And if you look from here, if you watch, say my head, I'll exaggerate a bit. Can you see there's that kind of movement? I nearly tipped the chair over then. You don't want to do that. So this creates just that little bit of extra energy going through. So start with your hands in front of you, turn to your left, moving into your right foot. Lower the heel down when you come back to the center. And then change into cow gazes at the moon. Maybe with that same raise of the heel, push down through the ball of the foot. Good, and then holding the ball. This time just keeping your heels down, emphasizing the movement in hips and waist, lower back. And then in the other direction. And once again, just let your hands rest off. Take this nice, slow, deep breath. And then transferring your weight again, but this time following the pattern that we use for part in the wild horse's mane. You go forward into one leg, so I'm going into my left leg, back on the diagonal line to the opposite hip, move across to what will be your left hip, and then the diagonal forwards, and start the cycle over again, going back on that same line, so from front foot to hip, and then across with a little bit of a turn forwards into the opposite leg again, and that. Now go over into your left, hold the ball, turn to your left a little bit, part in the wild horse's mane. Easy and gently. One more round. And then once again, bringing your hands together, rubbing your hands. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. And one shoulder, and then your arm. The other side. Up part of your chest. Belly. And your legs. And then just before you stand, once again, just this movement with your heel coming up and alternating from side to side. So again, this just helps to get some of the feeling and the circulation back into your legs. But we've also seen that it has an influence on the whole of the body. Reminds me a little bit of cats when they're sitting on your lap and they're kind of digging their claws in, purring at the same time. So you can purr if you want to. I'm not sure can you see what I'm doing? I'll show from the side, I'll show at this angle. So I'm just doing that. Quite a nice feeling on the sole of your foot as well, the toes. And then you hold one foot up, I'm going to show from the side, one foot up, and just go around a little bit, a couple of times. Like you're trying to crush a stone underneath the ball of your foot. Go back the other way. And on the other side. And back the other way. Okay, and then stand. So feet hip width apart. As always, hips sinking back down, let your hips drop and pushing up. And sink. And then the wild goose. And part in the clouds. One more time. Now, transferring your weight from side to side. Remembering this is only quite a small movement. So at the moment, you're only getting something like 60% of your weight there. And you're trying to maintain this line. So again, if I show you with the pole, I'm here in the middle, it's there. As I go across, you can see it moves with me. I don't want to do this or anything like that. I think it's quite difficult. But then, so you only get about 60% of your weight across. But what you can do is you move across, and again, you raise the heel, just like we did in the chair, and you turn a little bit further. And then the foot goes down, it may be slightly angled, you go across. So you get the benefit of that little bit of a push. But because your heels come up, you'll know you can actually move across further. The important thing is here, as I move across, I'm here, not here. So I haven't used that push up to lean out further. So that's the basic leg movement. So it gives you quite a strong feeling. It's very important when you do this to really let go in this in this supporting leg, because if I stiffen up in my hip or my knee and I push like this, I'm starting to fall over the leg. So the leg really has to absorb the weight going down. But then, of course, it's in a position to push back up. Hands in front of you. Just following the movement to begin with. So we can feel the push up from the foot coming up through the side into the shoulder. There's the turn, the transfer of the weight, all building up. And once again, we go into hitting the ball in front of the shoulder. One more on each side. Now, 1 foot forwards. Hip width, remember, across your feet. So you start here, and you can imagine the parallel lines going through your feet, or you've got a floor with floorboards or something like that. That can be handy. They can provide you with the measure. And just transferring your weight. Your foot is fully on the ground at this point. So no heel coming up, no toes coming up. And again, that upright position. And again, like in the chair, looking for a smooth quality of movement. And initially, that's going to be more important than how much of the weight moves. And remember, the more weight you're asking the leg to absorb, the more likely it is to stiffen up. And once again, when we start to raise our toes and our heel, we maintain that upright position. So I can't see it. From there, as I go back, this happens, not this. And when I go forwards, this, not this. Hopefully. And really, both movements are quite simple. The raising of your toes is just a flexing of your ankle joint. The raising of your heel, if you think about your knee going forwards, that will raise your heel. Now, both of those are helped by the hip sinking. So actually, to raise your heel, to raise your toes, you begin by sinking your hips. So given that this is the beginning of the stepping, the sinking of the hips lies right at the beginning of this whole process of moving the leg to take a step. Drawing in. After a while, you'll really feel the weight of your leg pulling down on your hip. It's quite nice. The leg seems to swing from your hip. And then on the other side, so same thing, transfer your weight. And then raising your toes and your heel. Stepping in. And then taking the full steps. In the other direction. And shake out. It's going to show you an exercise, which if you can find a way to do it is quite an interesting one. I talked about the weight of the leg. And we don't always get, like our arms, we're often holding ourselves very tight around the hips. So you've got to have the right place to do this. If you've got, say, in your garden, a patio with a step, something you can hold on to, or something like that. You see, if I put this block down, it's not quite big enough, actually, this block, but I'm putting it down next to the wall so I can hold on to the wall and I can just let my leg drop. So I actually let the full weight of my leg drop down. As I say, it needs to be a little bit longer because ideally there'll be more space between my leg and the ground. Let's try this as well. I'll probably fall off there. This is a really good exercise for loosening your hips. That's better. You can see my foot is off the ground. And then what I do is I just swing the foot. So I'm holding on to something. And I'm just letting my legs swing. The reason I'm standing on something is because if I was just on the ground, I would have to lift my foot up. But this, you can really feel the pull on the leg. And it's a really good way to loosen up around your hip. So obviously you've got to be quite careful. You've got to do that safely. So you need to be careful about where you do it and how you do it. But when we go to take the step, what we actually do is here, I bring the foot in and I rotate here. So when I get to here, when my leg does that, I'm actually looking to have the same kind of feeling, that there's a kind of pull down on the hip. That can help to counteract overdoing the kind of leaning to actually move your leg. We want to, if we're walking normally, we tilt forwards to get a sense of momentum going forward. But then if we have to somehow do this to sort of like pull the leg up, it really starts to throw our posture out. So what time is it? I have 1 foot forwards, and then let's do pushing away. Pushing forwards and backwards. Then come forwards, raise your heel, bring the foot in, put the toes down, and then back. Raise your toes. So in that transition, just be aware of the weight of your leg. Try on the other side. Raising heels and toes. And step in. So we can start to get that sense of how to move the foot, and in a way not being sort of afraid of the full weight of the leg. It helps us to maintain the alignment of the pelvis. And help to keep us fairly grounded while we're taking the step. So this time, bring the foot in, draw your hands back and step forwards or backwards, doesn't matter which way. And then when you've gone as far as you can, step back, bring the foot in. So if I've leant over to raise my leg, then what will happen is here, I would definitely get kind of wobbly and bring the foot in. So there's a difference between the angle we might make to walk down the road. You get the benefit of a little bit of momentum and a kind of tensing up or pulling up from the shoulder because it's difficult to move the leg. Obviously, there has to be some kind of conditioning take place for the legs to be strong enough because there are little muscles there. But also we need to just have a sense of what that means. So I'll just show you this exercise once again. Obviously, be careful with this because you're standing on something. So make sure that whatever you're standing on is good. As I say, a step or a stair somewhere. Make sure you're holding on, and just this, nice and easy. And that will help to give you a sense of the motion. And then what you can do, you just raise the knee, and you can do the same thing there. and you want to feel the same weight there. And that's quite tricky, because quite often we've tensed up in the hip. They're both nice exercises for getting a bit of energy in the hip and loosening the hip. So anyway, go back to your chair. And you'll know best sort of in your own home where there might be a place to do that. If you do decide to build up something like I just did, do make sure it's kind of solid. Or if you've got tucked away in a cupboard somewhere, one of the, remember steps that you used to do step aerobics with, those kind of things. So, but obviously safety first, but it's a useful exercise there. So now just once again aware of your weight in your hips and your feet. Nice long feeling through your back, upper body. Arms, again, arms feeling quite heavy. Arms and legs are quite heavy, so it's okay for them to feel heavy. And then embrace tiger, return to mountain. One more time. And back. Lovely. Thank you as ever, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming along, and